Admiral Kethver stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Eternal Glory, and watched as the last of his ships moved into position. 10,000 vessels stretched out before him in perfect formation. Each ship gleamed with the silver blue metal that made Zephyrian ships famous across the galaxy. The smallest destroyer was 3 times larger than anything the humans had ever built. The largest dreadnoughts were floating cities of death that could crack planets in half. He had spent 2 full years planning this moment. The Zephyrian hegemony had conquered 17 star systems in the past century. Each time, the enemy had surrendered after seeing the Invincible Armada arrive. Most species were smart enough to know when they were beaten. The few that fought back had been crushed within hours. "Sir, all ships report ready," said Commander Zethel, his second in command. The younger officer's 4 arms moved across the control panels with practiced ease. Like all Zephyrians, he was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished stone. His large black eyes reflected the light from the ship's displays. Kethver nodded. At 8 feet tall, he towered over most of his crew. 3 rows of medals covered his chest, each one marking another victory for the hegemony. He had never lost a battle. He had never even come close to losing a battle. Today would be no different. Excellent. Begin the advance toward the 3rd planet. Maintain formation. I want these humans to see exactly what they are facing. The fleet moved forward like a school of deadly fish. Each ship kept perfect distance from its neighbors. The formation had been used by Zephyrian forces for 200 years. It looked beautiful and terrifying at the same time. More importantly, it worked. Kethver pulled up the intelligence files on his personal display. The humans called their planet Earth. They had spread to a few other worlds in their star system, but they were still trapped in just one solar system. Most of their ships used simple fusion drives that were centuries behind Zephyrian technology. Their weapons were even worse. Kinetic projectiles and primitive energy beams that could barely scratch Zephyrian armor. "Sir, we are receiving a message from the human homeworld," reported the communications officer. "Put it on the main screen," Kethver ordered. The face of a human appeared on the display. It was a female, with the pale pink skin and strange hair that all humans seemed to have. She wore a simple blue uniform with some kind of rank insignia. "On the collar, greetings," the human said. Her voice was calm, almost friendly. "I am Admiral Sarah Martinez of the United Earth Defense Force. We have been monitoring your approach to our system." Kethver almost laughed. The human actually sounded polite. Most species either begged for mercy or threatened him when they saw the Armada. This one acted like she was welcoming guests to a party. "I am Admiral Kethver of the Zephyrian hegemony," he replied. "I command the Invincible Armada. You will surrender your world immediately and accept hegemony rule. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your civilization." The human nodded as if she understood. "I see. Well, that is certainly an interesting proposal. However, I am afraid we cannot accept those terms. We would like to invite you to send a delegation to discuss this matter further. Perhaps we can find a solution that works for everyone." Kethver stared at the screen. In all his years of conquest, no one had ever invited him to talks after he had threatened to destroy them. The human seemed completely unafraid. Either she was incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. "You do not understand," he said slowly. "This is not a negotiation. This is a demand for surrender. Look at your sensors. Count my ships. You have perhaps a few hundred vessels in your entire fleet. I have 10,000 ships, each one more powerful than anything you have ever built." The human smiled. It was a strange expression that showed her white teeth. "Yes, we have been studying your ships. They are quite impressive. Your technology is very advanced. We would be honored to learn more about your civilization." "Learn more?" Kethver's voice rose. "You should be learning how to surrender? Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Your ships are too slow to escape our pursuit. Your entire species will be enslaved or destroyed within the next few hours." "Perhaps," the human said, "but we would still like to try talking first. We have prepared a meeting place on our moon. Small delegations from both sides could discuss the situation. What do you say? Kethver turned to his officers. Several of them looked confused. Commander Zethel shrugged his four shoulders. Sir, this is highly unusual, Zethel said quietly. Most species either surrender immediately or attack us. I have never seen anything like this. Neither have I, Kethver admitted. He looked back at the human on the screen. Very well. I will send a small force to your moon, but this will not change anything. When your delegation fails to accept our terms, I will destroy your world. Understood? The human said. We look forward to meeting with you. The transmission ended. Kethver stared at the blank screen for several seconds. Sir, what are your orders? Asked Zethel. Select 5 ships to accompany me to the human moon. Fast cruisers with full sensor arrays. I want to see what these humans are really planning. Do you think it might be a trap? Kethver laughed. What kind of trap could they possibly set? Their entire fleet could not destroy even one of our ships. No, this is desperation. They think they can talk their way out of conquest. They will. Learn how wrong they are. An hour later, Kethver's small squadron approached the human moon. The surface was covered with domes and buildings that looked crude compared to Zephyrian architecture. Several human ships waited nearby. They were small, ugly things that looked like they had been built from spare parts. Sir, I am detecting some unusual energy readings from the human installations, reported the sensor officer. What kind of readings? I am not sure, sir. The patterns do not match anything in our database. It might be their power systems. They seem to be using technology we have not encountered before. Kethver frowned. That was strange. The hegemony had fought dozens of different species. Their technology database was the most complete in the galaxy. How could these primitive humans be using something new? Keep monitoring those readings. I want to know what they are doing. The meeting took place in a large dome on the moon's surface. Kethver brought 4 of his best officers. The humans sent 5 representatives, including the admiral he had spoken with earlier. The meeting room was simple and functional, with a large table in the center and chairs that had been specially made to accommodate Zephyrian height. Welcome, said Admiral Martinez. Thank you for coming. Would you like some refreshments? We have prepared food and drink that should be safe for your species. Kethver ignored the offer. Let us begin. You have 1 chance to surrender. Accept hegemony rule, and your people will be allowed to live as servants. Refuse, and every human will die. I understand your position, Martinez said, but I must ask you to reconsider. War is a terrible thing. Surely there must be another way. There is no other way. The hegemony has ruled this galaxy for centuries. We bring order to chaos. We bring peace through strength. Peace through conquest, you mean? Yes, it is the only way primitive species like yours can survive. You lack the wisdom to govern yourselves. Martinez nodded thoughtfully. I see. And how many species have you conquered? 17 systems, hundreds of worlds, billions of lives, brought under hegemony protection. Interesting. And how do you typically approach new species? Do you always begin with threats of destruction? Kethver was beginning to feel irritated. The human was asking questions instead of accepting defeat. We offer a choice: submit or be destroyed. Most species choose submission. And those who choose to fight? They are crushed. Completely and utterly. I see. And you have never lost a battle? Never. The Invincible Armada has never been defeated. We are the most powerful force in the galaxy. Martinez smiled again. That is quite impressive. You must be very confident in your abilities. Confidence comes from experience. We have fought every type of enemy imaginable. We have seen every trick, every desperate strategy. Nothing can stand against us. The human delegation exchanged glances. Something passed between them that Kethver could not read. Well, Martinez said, I suppose there is no point in continuing. These talks, we cannot accept your terms, we choose to fight. Kethver stood up. Then you choose to die. Return to your fleet, Admiral. In 1 hour, the bombardment will begin. I suggest you use that time to make peace with whatever gods you worship. As the Zephyrian delegation left the moon, Kethver felt a mixture of disappointment and anticipation. He had hoped the humans would be smarter than this, but their foolish choice would make the conquest more interesting. "Sir," said Commander Zethel as they returned to the Eternal Glory, "those energy readings from the human installations. They are getting stronger." "Probably charging their weapons," Kethver replied. "It will not matter. Nothing they have can harm us." He was wrong, but he would not learn that until it was far too late. Admiral Kethver stood in the command center of the Eternal Glory and watched the countdown timer reach 0. 1 hour had passed since the failed negotiations on the human moon. Now it was time to show these stubborn creatures the price of defying the Zephyrian hegemony. "All ships report ready for bombardment, sir," Commander Zethel announced. His forearms moved across the tactical displays, coordinating the massive fleet. 10,000 ships hung in space like a cloud of death, each one aimed at the blue and green world below. "Begin with the orbital stations," Kethver ordered. "Destroy their defenses first. I want them to watch helplessly as we strip away their protection." The first volley lit up the darkness of space. Thousands of plasma beams lanced out from the Zephyrian fleet, each one carrying enough energy to vaporize a mountain. The human orbital platforms that circled Earth looked pathetic compared to the firepower heading toward them. Small, simple structures that would be turned to vapor in seconds. The plasma beams struck their targets. Brilliant explosions bloomed across space as the human stations were torn apart. Kethver smiled with satisfaction. This was always his favorite part of a conquest. The moment when the enemy realized how hopeless their situation was. "Direct hits on all targets, sir," reported the weapons officer. "The human orbital defenses have been completely destroyed." "Excellent. Now target their—" "Sir." The sensor officer's voice was sharp with confusion. "I am detecting something unusual." "What is it?" "The human stations, sir, they are rebuilding themselves." Kethver turned sharply toward the sensor display. Where the orbital platforms had been destroyed moments before, new structures were already taking shape. Metal and energy seemed to flow together out of nothing, forming new defensive stations identical to the ones that had just been vaporized. "That is impossible," Kethver said. "No species can rebuild that quickly, run a full sensor sweep. There must be construction ships we missed." The sensor officer worked frantically at his controls. "No, sir, no construction vessels detected. The stations are literally rebuilding themselves." "And sir, they are doing it faster than we destroyed them." Kethver stared at the display in disbelief. In less than 5 minutes, the human orbital defenses were back to full strength. Not just repaired, but completely new stations had appeared in locations where none had existed before. "Sir, we are receiving another transmission from the humans," the communications officer reported. "Put it through." Admiral Martinez appeared on the main screen again. She looked exactly as calm as she had during the negotiations. "Hello again, Admiral Kethver. I hope you found the demonstration interesting. What trickery is this?" Kethver demanded. "Those stations were destroyed. How did you rebuild them so quickly?" "Oh, we did not rebuild them," Martinez said with that strange human smile. "Those were completely new stations. We thought you might want to see what our construction technology can do." "Construction technology? That was not construction. That was—" "I do not know what that was. We call it matter compilation. We can arrange atoms and energy into any pattern we choose. It is quite useful for defense purposes." Kethver felt a small chill run down his spine. Matter compilation was theoretical technology that the hegemony's best scientists said was impossible. The energy requirements alone would drain the power of a dozen stars. "You are lying," he said. "No species possesses such technology." "Are we lying?" Martinez asked. "Why don't you try attacking those stations again? See what happens." Kethver hesitated. Something about the human's confidence bothered him, but he could not show weakness in front of his crew. Fire again. Full bombardment, destroy everything in orbit around their planet. The second volley was even more intense than the first. Every ship in the Armada opened fire at once. The space around Earth lit up like a new sun as tens of thousands of plasma beams converged on the human defenses. This time, Kethver made sure his weapons officers targeted not just the stations, but any space where new stations might appear. The explosions were spectacular. The entire orbital region around Earth became a sea of fire and destruction. Nothing could possibly survive such an attack, but as the energy dissipated and the sensors cleared, the results were the same. New stations appeared even faster than before. Not just in the same locations, but in new positions that provided better defensive coverage. It was as if the humans had used the attack to improve their defensive network. "Sir," the sensor officer said quietly, "I am detecting massive energy spikes from the planet's surface. The readings are... well, they do not make sense." "What kind of readings?" "The humans appear to be manipulating space-time itself. The energy signatures suggest they are bending reality around their defensive positions." Kethver felt his confidence begin to crack. In 300 years of conquest, the hegemony had never encountered anything like this. "Are you saying they can control space and time?" "I'm saying that according to our sensors, they are doing exactly that." Before Kethver could respond, Martinez spoke again from the screen. "I see you are having some difficulty with our defenses. Perhaps we should move to the next part of our demonstration." "Next part? You have shown us your offensive capabilities. Now we would like to show you ours." Warning alarms began blaring throughout the eternal glory. The tactical display lit up with threat indicators as hundreds of new contacts appeared around the Zephyrian fleet. Ships materialized out of empty space surrounding the Armada in a perfect sphere. "Where did they come from?" Kethver shouted. "Unknown, sir," the sensor officer replied. "They just appeared. No engine signatures, no jump gates, nothing." 1 moment space was empty. The next moment they were there. Kethver stared at the tactical display. The human ships were small compared to Zephyrian vessels, but there were thousands of them. They had somehow appeared in perfect formation around his entire fleet without triggering any of the Armada's sensors. "Sir, the human ships are powering weapons," the weapons officer reported. "Energy readings are..." "Sir, these readings cannot be correct." "What do you mean?" "Each human ship is generating more power than our entire flagship." "That should be physically impossible." On the screen, Martinez continued speaking. "Please do not be alarmed. We are not going to attack you. This is simply a demonstration of our defensive capabilities. We wanted you to see what would happen if you continued your assault on our planet." "Your ships are surrounding us," Kethver said. His voice sounded strained even to himself. "Yes, they are. We thought it would be easier to talk if we had your attention. Now, shall we discuss this situation more reasonably?" Kethver looked around his command center. His officers were staring at their displays with expressions of confusion and fear. In all their years of service, none of them had ever seen anything like this. "What do you want?" he asked. "The same thing we wanted an hour ago. To find a peaceful solution to this conflict. We do not wish to fight the Zephyrian hegemony. We have no desire to conquer your worlds or harm your people. We simply want to be left alone." "You cannot leave us alone," Kethver snapped. "You possess technology that threatens the balance of power in the galaxy. The hegemony cannot allow such weapons to exist outside our control." "I see. So you are afraid of us." The word hit Kethver like a physical blow. "The Zephyrian hegemony fears nothing. Then why are you so determined to destroy us? If you are not afraid, why not simply leave us in peace?" Kethver found himself unable to answer. The truth was that he was beginning to feel something he had never experienced before in battle. Not fear exactly, but uncertainty. These humans were not behaving like any enemy he had ever faced. "Sir," Commander Zethel said quietly, "perhaps we should consider a tactical withdrawal. We can return with reinforcements and a better understanding of human capabilities." "We do not retreat," Kethver roared. "The Invincible Armada has never retreated." "Then what do you suggest, sir?" Kethver studied the tactical display. His 10,000 ships were completely surrounded by human vessels. The humans had demonstrated technology that seemed to violate the laws of physics. They had rebuilt destroyed stations instantly and surrounded his fleet without being detected. But he was Admiral Kethver. He had conquered 17 star systems. He had never lost a battle. There had to be a solution. "We will show them the true power of the hegemony," he declared. "All ships, prepare for full assault. Target the human vessels surrounding us. We will break through their lines and then glass their planet from orbit." "Sir, are you sure that is wise?" Zethel asked. "I'm sure that we cannot show weakness. If word spreads that the Invincible Armada was intimidated by a single system species, every world in the galaxy will rebel against us." On the screen, Martinez sighed. "I was hoping it would not come to this." "Very well, Admiral. If you insist on violence, we will defend ourselves. But please understand that we take no pleasure in what is about to happen." "Your threats do not frighten me," Kethver said. "They are not threats," Martinez replied sadly. "They are warnings. You are about to discover why humans have never been conquered." The transmission ended. Kethver turned to his weapons officer. "All ships, open fire. Show these primitives what real power looks like." The Invincible Armada unleashed its full might for the first time in decades. 10,000 ships fired simultaneously, creating a storm of... Admiral Kethver gripped the command rail as another shockwave ripped through the eternal glory. The lights flickered and died for several seconds before the emergency power kicked in. Around him, his officers worked frantically at their stations, trying to make sense of what was happening to their fleet. "Damage report!" he shouted over the sound of groaning metal. "Sir, we have lost contact with over half our ships," Commander Zethel replied. His voice was tight with stress. "The ones still reporting are heavily damaged. Our sensors cannot track the human weapons. They appear to be using some kind of technology that affects space itself." Kethver looked at the tactical display, where thousands of green dots had shown the positions of his ships just minutes ago. Now only a few hundred remained. The rest had simply vanished. Not destroyed in the normal sense, but erased as if they had never existed at all. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "Our shields should protect us from any known weapon." "Sir, I do not think these are normal weapons," the science officer said. "I am detecting massive distortions in the fabric of space-time around each attack. The humans appear to be weaponizing fundamental forces of the universe." Another ship disappeared from the display. The mighty dreadnought Starcrusher, pride of the Third Fleet, folded in on itself like paper being crumpled by an invisible hand. One moment it was there, firing its plasma cannons at the human vessels. The next moment it was gone, compressed into a point of light that flickered once and went dark. "They are not using energy weapons," the science officer continued. "They are manipulating gravity, space, and time itself. Our shields are designed to stop plasma and kinetic projectiles. They cannot protect against attacks that change the laws of physics." Kethver felt something cold settle in his stomach. In 300 years of conquest, the Zephyrian hegemony had built their power on superior technology. Their plasma weapons could melt through any armor. Their shields could stop any attack. Their ships were faster and stronger than anything else in the galaxy, but these humans were using technology that made Zephyrian science look like children playing with toys. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet," the communications officer announced. "Put it through." Admiral Martinez appeared on the screen again. Behind her, Kethver could see the bridge of her ship. It looked surprisingly normal. No exotic technology visible. No strange energy fields, just humans in simple uniforms working at ordinary-looking control stations. "Admiral Kethver, this has gone far enough," Martinez said. "We do not want to destroy your entire fleet. Please order your ships to stop firing and we will cease our defensive actions." "Defensive actions?" Kethver snarled. "You are slaughtering my fleet? Yes, we are defending ourselves against your attack. That is what happens when someone tries to destroy our world." but we take no pleasure in it. Order your ships to stand down and this can end right now. Kethver looked at his tactical display again. Another squadron of cruisers had just been caught in some kind of gravity wave that twisted them into impossible shapes. Their hulls buckled and tore as the very atoms that made up their structure were reorganized into new patterns. "What are you?" he asked quietly. "We are humans," Martinez replied. "We are explorers, scientists, artists, and dreamers. We build cities and write poetry and raise families. We are also very good at defending ourselves when threatened. This technology you possess, where did it come from? How long have you had weapons like this?" Martinez was quiet for a moment. "We have been preparing for contact with other species for a very long time, Admiral. Centuries, in fact. We knew that when we finally met other intelligent life, there was a chance they might be hostile, so we prepared." "Prepared how?" "We studied every form of warfare we could imagine. We explored every branch of science and technology. We asked ourselves a simple question: what would we need to survive if we encountered a species that wanted to destroy us?" Another Zephyrian ship vanished from the display. This time it was the heavy cruiser Iron Fist. One of the human vessels had fired some kind of beam that seemed to erase matter itself. The Iron Fist simply faded away like a ghost, leaving nothing behind. "Your species has been at war for thousands of years," Martinez continued. "We have studied your history. You have conquered many worlds and enslaved many peoples. But you have always fought against species that use technology similar to your own. Energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, force shields. You have never faced an enemy that approaches warfare the way humans do." "And how do humans approach warfare?" "Thoroughly." The word sent a chill through Kethver. There was something in the way Martinez said it that suggested depths of planning and preparation he could not even imagine. "Sir," the sensor officer interrupted, "I am detecting new energy signatures from the human ships. They appear to be preparing for another attack wave. Wait." Kethver called out to the screen. "I want to understand. Your technology is beyond anything we have ever seen. How did a single system species develop such capabilities?" Martinez nodded. "That is a fair question. You see, Admiral, your species conquers other worlds. You spread across the galaxy and build an empire, but humans have spent our time differently. Instead of conquering, we have been learning. Instead of enslaving others, we have been perfecting ourselves. But your technology, matter compilation, space-time manipulation, reality warping, these things should take millions of years to develop." "They did take millions of years," Martinez said, "but not our years. We learned to manipulate time itself centuries ago. We have research facilities that exist in accelerated time streams. What takes 1,000,000 years in normal time takes only a few decades in our laboratories." Kethver's mind reeled. The humans could control time? They had been developing technology for subjective millions of years while remaining hidden in a single star system? "That is impossible," he said weakly. "Is it? Your sensors detected unusual energy readings from our installations. Did you think those were just power generators?" The human fleet moved closer to the remnants of the Armada. Their ships seemed to glide through space without using any visible propulsion. As they approached, Kethver could see that they were not really ships in the traditional sense. They looked more like geometric shapes made of some kind of crystalline material that bent light in strange ways. "Sir, the human vessels are taking formation around us," Zephyr reported. "We are completely surrounded again. Can we break through their lines?" "Sir, I do not think our weapons can even damage their ships. Every shot we have fired has been absorbed or deflected. It is as if they exist in a different layer of reality." On the screen, Martinez leaned forward. "Admiral, I am going to share something with you. Your intelligence reports describe humans as a primitive species with simple technology. That was not an accident. We wanted you to think we were weak. We wanted any hostile species to underestimate us. Why? Because the best way to win a war is to make sure it never becomes a fair fight. If you had known what we were capable of, you might have brought a larger fleet. You might have approached us differently." You might have been more careful. Kethver thought about the intelligence reports. Human ships using fusion drives and kinetic weapons. Primitive technology that was hundreds of years behind Zephyrian capabilities. It had all been fake. Everything we knew about you was a lie, not everything. We really are peaceful by nature. We really would prefer to solve problems through negotiation rather than violence. But we are also realists. We know that not every species in the galaxy shares those values. Another group of Zephyrian ships tried to make a run for the edge of the battle zone. The human vessels responded instantly. Beams of twisted space reached out and caught the fleeing ships, wrapping them in fields of distorted reality. The ships stretched and compressed like images in a funhouse mirror before disappearing entirely. Where do they go? Kethver asked. The ships that disappear, are they destroyed? Some are destroyed, yes. Others are relocated to places where they cannot harm anyone. A few are simply removed from this timeline altogether. We try to use non-lethal methods when possible, but your ships keep firing at us. We are warriors. We cannot simply surrender. Yes, we understand that. Your culture values martial honor above survival. We have studied your people extensively. That is why we prepared defenses that would make resistance impossible rather than simply difficult. The tactical display showed less than 1,000 Zephyrian ships remaining from the original 10,000. The Invincible Armada, pride of the hegemony, had been reduced to scattered fragments in less than an hour. Sir, the engineering officer called out, our jump drives are still not responding. Whatever the humans are doing, it is preventing us from entering hyperspace. We have isolated this entire region of space, Martinez explained. Nothing can enter or leave without our permission. We learned long ago that the best way to end a battle quickly is to make sure the enemy cannot call for reinforcements or retreat to fight another day. Kethver slumped in his command chair. Everything he had believed about warfare, about technology, about the balance of power in the galaxy had been proven wrong in the span of a single battle. The Zephyrian hegemony was not the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. They were not even close. What happens now? He asked. The medical bay of the human ship Harmony was unlike anything Admiral Kethver had ever seen. The walls seemed to be made of living metal that shifted and flowed as he watched. Soft blue light came from everywhere and nowhere, creating perfect illumination without any visible source. Most unsettling of all, the human medical devices appeared to be healing his injured crew members by simply touching them. Kethver watched as a human medic placed her hand on the broken arm of Lieutenant Vexter. Light flowed from her fingers into the wound, and the bone knitted itself back together in seconds. The lieutenant flexed his arm experimentally, then stared at it in amazement. How is this possible? Kethver asked the human doctor, a small female with gray hair who had introduced herself as Dr. Sarah Chun. Cellular regeneration guided by quantum field manipulation, she replied as if discussing the weather. We learned to work with the body's natural healing processes rather than against them. Much more efficient than traditional surgery. But the energy required, the complexity of the biological processes. Dr. Chun smiled. Oh, this is actually quite simple compared to some of our medical technology. Would you like to see our trauma bay? We can regrow entire organs in about 15 minutes. Kethver declined. He was already overwhelmed by what he had witnessed. 3 hours had passed since his surrender, and every minute had brought new revelations about human capabilities that challenged everything he thought he knew about science and technology. Admiral Martinez entered the medical bay, carrying a small device that looked like a simple tablet. How are your crew members recovering, Admiral? They are fine, Kethver said slowly. Better than fine. Some of them have injuries that should have taken months to heal. Your doctors fix them in minutes. Good. Medical care is a basic right, regardless of species or circumstances. We never let prisoners suffer when we can help them. Kethver studied the human admiral. She was small by Zephyrian standards, barely reaching his shoulder even with her military boots. Her hair was starting to turn gray, and there were lines around her eyes that suggested she had seen many difficult situations. But there was something in her manner that commanded respect, a quiet confidence that came from absolute certainty in her abilities. "I have been thinking about our conversation during the battle," Kethver said. "You mentioned that humans have been preparing for contact with hostile species for centuries. But if you possess such advanced technology, why did you remain hidden in a single star system? Why not explore the galaxy yourselves?" Martinez gestured for him to follow her out of the medical bay. They walked through corridors that seemed to reshape themselves as they moved, always providing the perfect path to their destination. "That is an excellent question," Martinez said. "The answer requires some background about human history and philosophy. Are you familiar with the concept of the Great Filter?" "No." "It is a theory about why the galaxy appears to be relatively empty of advanced civilizations. The idea is that there are certain challenges that most species fail to overcome. They destroy themselves before they can spread to the stars." They entered what appeared to be an observation deck. The walls were transparent, providing a clear view of the space around them. Kethver could see the remnants of his fleet being tended to by human repair ships. Massive mechanical devices that moved like living creatures were rebuilding damaged Zephyrian vessels with impossible speed and precision. "Humans almost failed to pass the Great Filter ourselves," Martinez continued. "We came very close to destroying our civilization several times. Nuclear weapons, climate change, resource depletion, artificial intelligence gone wrong. Each time, we barely managed to avoid extinction, but you survived. Yes, we survived. And we learned. We realized that the greatest threat to any intelligent species is often itself, so we made a decision. Instead of rushing out to conquer the galaxy, we would focus on becoming the kind of species that deserve to inherit it." Kethver looked out at the human repair ships. They were not just fixing his vessels, they were improving them. Adding new systems, upgrading old technology, making them better than they had been before the battle. "What do you mean?" "We spent our time learning to control our own nature. We eliminated war among ourselves. We solved the problems of hunger, disease, and poverty. We learned to live in harmony with our environment. Most importantly, we learned to see other species not as threats or resources to be exploited, but as potential friends and teachers." "Yet you developed weapons that can destroy entire fleets," Martinez nodded sadly. "Yes, we did. Because we also learned that not every species would make the same choices we made. Some would remain violent and aggressive. Some would see kindness as weakness and peace as an invitation to attack. So we prepared defenses." They watched as one of the human repair ships completely rebuilt a Zephyrian destroyer from the inside out. The process took less than 20 minutes. When it was finished, the ship looked exactly the same from the outside, but Kethver suspected its capabilities had been dramatically enhanced. "Your technology," he said. "Time manipulation, matter compilation, reality warping. How long did it really take you to develop these things?" "About 3,000 years, subjective time. But we compressed that into roughly 3 centuries of normal time using temporal acceleration fields. We also had help. Help from whom? From ourselves? Specifically, from future versions of ourselves. Once we learned to manipulate time, we discovered that information can sometimes flow backward as well as forward. We received scientific knowledge from human scientists who had not been born yet." Kethver felt his head spinning. "You learned science from your own future, among other methods?" "We also learned from simulated civilizations that we created to explore different technological paths, and from artificial intelligences that we built to be wiser and more ethical than ourselves. The key was recognizing that we did not have to figure everything out alone." A soft chime sounded, and Martinez touched the tablet she was carrying. "Ah, your ships are ready. All repairs are complete. Your crews have been medically treated and briefed on the new safety systems we installed." "New safety systems?" "Your ship's life support systems were rather primitive. We took the liberty of upgrading them. Your crew will now be protected against radiation, toxic gases, hull breaches, and several other hazards that Zephyrian technology could not handle. Consider it a gift. They made their way to the docking bay where Kethver's shuttle was waiting. The small vessel looked unchanged from the outside, but he could sense that it had been fundamentally altered. New energy fields hummed quietly around. Its hull and the control systems displayed information in languages he did not recognize. "Admiral," Martinez said as they reached the shuttle, "I need to ask you something important. What will you tell your superiors when you return home?" Kethver had been dreading this question. "I do not know. The truth will be difficult for them to accept. The hegemony's entire military doctrine is based on the assumption that we possess superior technology. If word spreads that a single system species destroyed the Invincible Armada in less than an hour, there will be panic, rebellions, political chaos. Yes, every conquered world will see this as an opportunity to revolt. The hegemony will collapse within a year." Martinez was quiet for a moment. "That would result in a great deal of suffering. Billions of people caught in civil wars and chaos. It would. But I cannot lie to my government. They need to know what they are facing. I understand. But perhaps there is another way to handle this situation." She handed him a small device that looked like a crystal shaped into an intricate geometric pattern. "This contains a complete record of our encounter, including detailed scans of human technology and capabilities. But it also contains something else." "What?" "A proposal. A way for the Zephyrian hegemony to transform itself without collapse. A path toward becoming the kind of civilization that can coexist peacefully with humanity and other advanced species." Kethver examined the device. It felt warm in his hands and seemed to pulse with internal light. "What kind of proposal?" "Gradual reform. The hegemony could begin by granting more autonomy to conquered worlds. Reduce military spending and increase investment in science and education. Share technology more freely instead of hoarding it. Over time, you could transform from a conquering empire into a confederation of willing partners. And if we refuse?" Martinez's expression became very serious. "Then humanity will be forced to take more direct action. We cannot allow a hostile empire to threaten peaceful species throughout the galaxy. If the hegemony continues its current path, we will have no choice but to intervene." "Intervene how?" "By making it impossible for Zephyrian ships to leave your home systems, by preventing your military from functioning, by ensuring that no more worlds are conquered or enslaved." The implications hit Kethver like a physical blow. Humanity could effectively imprison the entire hegemony within their own territory, cut them off from the galaxy without firing a shot. "You could do that?" "We could. We would prefer not to. That is why we are offering this alternative." Kethver looked at the crystal device again. "A peaceful transition to a new form of government. It would mean the end of the hegemony as he knew it, but it might also mean survival for his people." The journey back to Zephyrian space took 3 weeks. Admiral Kethver spent most of that time in his quarters staring at the crystal device Admiral Martinez had given him. The small object contained information that could reshape the future of the galaxy, or it could destroy everything his people had built over centuries of conquest. Commander Zethel visited him daily, bringing reports from the fleet and updates on crew morale. The surviving ships were performing better than ever, thanks to the human upgrades, but the crews were struggling with what they had witnessed. "Sir, the men are asking questions," Zethel said during one of these visits. "They want to know what we will tell High Command. They want to know if we will fight the humans again." "And what do you tell them?" "I tell them to focus on their duties and leave the big decisions to their superiors. But, sir, they are not fools. They know we encountered something beyond our understanding. Word will spread no matter what we officially report." Kethver nodded. The truth had a way of emerging, especially when it was as dramatic as the complete destruction of the Invincible Armada. Even if he ordered his crews to remain silent, rumors would spread. Within months, every military officer in the hegemony would know that humans possessed technology that made Zephyrian weapons look like toys. Have you thought about what you will recommend to the High Council? Zethel asked. Every day. Every hour. Kethver picked up the crystal device. The humans offered us a choice. Transform our civilization or face isolation from the galaxy? Part of me wants to reject their ultimatum and prepare for war. And the other part? The other part remembers watching our ships disappear like they had never existed. The other part knows we cannot win a war against an enemy that can manipulate time and space itself. When they finally reached Zephyr Prime, the capital world of the hegemony, Kethver was summoned immediately to appear before the High Council. The Great Chamber was exactly as he remembered it from his last visit 5 years ago. Massive stone pillars reached toward a domed ceiling painted with scenes of Zephyrian victories. 12 high-backed chairs arranged in a circle, each one occupied by a member of the ruling council. High Counselor Thexara, the eldest member of the government, spoke first. Her voice echoed in the vast chamber. Admiral Kethver, your report was unusual. You claim that a single system species destroyed 90% of the Invincible Armada in less than 2 hours. That is correct, High Counselor. Using weapons that manipulate space and time. Yes, and that they offered to help us transform our government rather than simply destroying us completely? They did. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several council members looked skeptical. High Counselor Brentuck, a military veteran known for his aggressive policies, leaned forward in his chair. Admiral, this story is difficult to believe. Are you certain you were not the victim of some kind of elaborate deception? Perhaps the humans used advanced holographic technology to make their fleet appear larger than it actually was. Kethver had expected this reaction. High Counselor, I brought evidence. He produced the crystal device and placed it on the table in the center of the chamber. The geometric pattern began to glow, and suddenly the air above it filled with three-dimensional images. The council members gasped as they watched recordings of the battle from multiple angles. Zephyrian ships folding in on themselves, disappearing into twisted space, being erased from existence by weapons that defied all known laws of physics. The images shifted to show the human ships. Sleek vessels that moved without visible propulsion, absorbed plasma fire without damage, and generated energy fields that warped reality around them. The recordings were so detailed that individual human crew members could be seen working calmly at their stations while their ships tore apart the mightiest fleet in Zephyrian history. This cannot be real, whispered High Counselor Velkin. No species possesses such technology. The evidence suggests otherwise, Kethver replied. But there is more. The images changed again, showing the human repair ships rebuilding destroyed Zephyrian vessels, medical technology that healed injuries in seconds, manufacturing systems that created complex machinery from raw energy. The council watched in stunned silence as their worldview crumbled before their eyes. Finally, the recording ended. The chamber was quiet except for the soft humming of the crystal device as it powered down. High Counselor Thexara spoke carefully. Assuming this evidence is genuine, what exactly are you recommending, Admiral? The humans made us an offer. We can transform our civilization gradually, moving from conquest to cooperation. Or we can face isolation and eventual intervention. Given what I witnessed, I believe we should seriously consider their proposal. You are suggesting we abandon everything that has made the hegemony great. Brentuck's voice was sharp with anger. That we give up our rightful position as rulers of this galaxy? I am suggesting we adapt or face extinction. High Counselor, I have served the hegemony for 3 centuries. I have conquered 17 star systems in the name of our people. But I have never encountered anything like these humans. If we continue on our current path, they will stop us. And from what I have seen, they have the power to do it without breaking a sweat. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some council members wanted to mobilize every ship in the hegemony for a massive assault on human space. Others suggested that the recordings were fake and that the humans were bluffing. A few, led by High Counselor Thexara, argued for caution and further investigation. As the arguments continued, Kethver found himself thinking about his conversation with Admiral Martinez. The human had spoken of becoming worthy of advanced technology, of learning to see other species as potential friends rather than threats. It was a radically different way of thinking than anything taught in Zephyrian military academies. "High Counselor," he said during a brief pause in the debate, "there is something else the humans told me. They said we are not the only species watching us. There are others, some even more advanced than humanity, who have grown tired of our expansion." This statement caused a new wave of concerned murmurs. The idea that the hegemony might face multiple advanced enemies was clearly troubling to the council members. "What did they mean by that?" asked High Counselor Yexman. "I believe they meant that our policies have attracted negative attention from civilizations we do not even know exist. The humans may be offering us a chance to change course before we encounter something worse." High Counselor Brentic stood up abruptly. "This is all speculation and fear-mongering. We cannot base policy decisions on vague threats from unknown enemies. I propose we mobilize the reserve fleets and prepare for total war against the humans. We may have underestimated them once, but we will not make that mistake again." "With respect, High Counselor," Kethver said, "I do not think you understand what we would be facing. The humans did not defeat us through superior numbers or better tactics. They defeated us by using technology that operates on principles we do not even comprehend. How do you prepare for war against an enemy that can stop time, reshape matter, and erase ships from existence? We adapt our own technology. We develop countermeasures. We have the finest scientists in the galaxy." "Do we?" Kethver asked quietly. "The humans spent thousands of years developing their capabilities. They learned from future versions of themselves. They created artificial intelligences wiser than any natural mind. They solved the fundamental problems of war, poverty, and disease. What have we accomplished in comparison?" The chamber fell silent. For all their military victories, the Zephyrians had focused primarily on conquest rather than innovation. Their technology had advanced slowly, mainly through captured alien research rather than original development. High Counselor Thexara finally spoke. "Admiral Kethver, you have given us much to consider. We will need time to review this evidence and discuss our options. In the meantime, you are confined to the capital pending further investigation." "I understand, High Counselor." As Kethver left the chamber, he wondered if he had done enough. The crystal device remained on the council table, its geometric patterns dark and silent. Inside it was humanity's offer of a peaceful transformation. But he suspected that pride and fear would win out over wisdom. 3 days later, his fears were confirmed. High Counselor Brentic announced that the hegemony would mobilize its reserve fleets for a massive assault on human space. The attack would be launched with over 50,000 ships, 10 times larger than the Invincible Armada. Kethver's recordings were dismissed as clever fakes designed to weaken Zephyrian resolve. That night, as Kethver sat in his quarters under house arrest, he received an unexpected visitor. Commander Zethel entered quietly, carrying a small communication device. "Sir, I managed to send a message to the humans using the upgraded systems they installed in our ships. I thought you should hear the response." He activated the device and Admiral Martinez's voice filled the room. "Admiral Kethver, we are aware of your government's decision to launch another attack. We are disappointed but not surprised. Please know that we take no pleasure in what we are about to do. We had hoped for a better outcome," the message continued. "As we speak, Zephyrian ships throughout your territory are experiencing simultaneous system failures. Jump drives, weapons,